Imagine standing in one of the wealthiest, um, most rapidly developing cities on the planet. Like you're entirely surrounded by these towering, futuristic skyscrapers.
Right, just glass and steel everywhere.
Exactly. You have walls of glass and steel reflecting the intense, blinding glare of the desert sun. You walk a few blocks, you turn a corner, and without any warning, you are suddenly staring at a 150-year-old mud brick fortress.
It is a profound visual shock, honestly. I mean, you are standing in the shadow of the bleeding edge of the 21st century, and you're looking at a structure made out of literal earth, clay, and wood.
It's wild.
Uh-huh.
Welcome to the Travel Podcast by ExcursionPass. Today we're doing a deep dive into the heart of Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, and we are going to make you feel like you're right there walking those streets with us.
Oh, absolutely. To do this, we're pulling from two really detailed travel itineraries and their accompanying data sets. So one is a premium package from ExcursionPass, and the other is a highly rated option on TripAdvisor run by Saudi Nomadic Tours.
And, our goal here isn't just to list off where to go. We want to extract the absolute must-know historical and cultural nuggets of this city.
Right, because we know what you might be thinking. You're thinking, why focus on old mud bricks when there's this booming modern metropolis, right? We're going to get ahead of those doubts. We want to help you understand how this fast-changing metropolis actually works. Whether you're actively prepping for a trip, maybe getting ready for a business meeting in the region, or you're just intensely curious about how different parts of the world operate.
Exactly. And to understand how Riyadh operates today, you really have to start with that stark visual contrast you just mentioned in the intro.
The mud bricks versus the glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to look at the tension between its modern financial wealth and its incredibly well-preserved origins.
So let's start with those origins. If you drive 20 kilometers from the modern city center, you hit a place called Ad Diriyah. According to our sources, this is the historical home of the very first Saudi state. Specifically, there's a district here called Turaif, which is recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Which is huge.
Yeah, the itineraries describe walking through these ancient mud brick alleys and exploring the ruins of a massive desert citadel. And, having looked at the details, it's just amazing it's still standing.
Well, that's what's so fascinating when you think about the environmental mechanics of a place like that. A mud brick citadel in the desert wasn't built that way just for aesthetics,
Oh, totally.
It was a highly engineered survival mechanism. Mud brick, or adobe, acts as a massive thermal battery.
Wait, a thermal battery? How does that work?
So during the blistering heat of the day, those really thick walls absorb the solar radiation, keeping the interior cool.
Oh, I see.
And then at night, when the desert temperatures just plummet, the walls slowly release that stored heat. So Ad Diriyah was a powerhouse of commerce and culture, but its very existence depended on mastering that harsh environment.
I mean, I see the environmental logic for sure. But you don't even have to drive 20 kilometers out of town to see this architecture.
No, you really don't.
There's a fortress sitting right in the middle of modern Riyadh called Masmak. This is the 150-year-old citadel I mentioned earlier.
A visual shock one.
Yeah. It's made entirely of clay and mud brick. The construction details noted in the sources are fascinating. The roofs are covered with ceramic, ethel wood, and painted palm trees.
Right.
And over its lifespan, this single building has served as a military garrison, an ammunition warehouse, and a prison before finally becoming a museum. But here's what I really don't understand. Let's look at the real estate value alone.
Oh, it's got to be astronomical.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Modern Riyadh is booming.
Yeah.
The pressure to develop every square inch of the city center must be immense.
It is. The land beneath that fortress is incredibly valuable.
So how does a fragile 150-year-old clay building survive that? I mean, it feels like finding the original preserved wooden hull of an 18th century galleon sitting right in the middle of a modern nuclear submarine.
That's a great analogy.
You'd think the March of Progress would just pave right over it.
You would. But it gets to the heart of what modern Saudi Arabia is trying to do. That fortress didn't survive by accident.
Yeah.
And it didn't survive because, no one noticed it was there.
Right, they didn't just forget to bulldoze it.
Exactly. Its preservation is an aggressive, intentional choice. When a society advances as rapidly as Saudi Arabia has over the last few decades, jumping from a largely agrarian and nomadic society to a hyper-modern financial powerhouse, there is a very real danger of cultural vertigo.
Cultural vertigo, like losing a sense of who they are because the environment's changing too fast.
Precisely. If you only surround yourself with glass, steel, and, globalized corporate architecture, you can easily lose your anchor to the past.
Wow, yeah. I never thought about it like that.
So, preserving Al Masmak, right in the center of the financial district, serves as a physical, undeniable anchor. It reminds the nation, and really anyone who visits, that their identity wasn't forged in some air-conditioned boardroom.
Right, it was forged in the dirt and the heat.
Yes. The harsh reality of the desert. It's a deliberate statement about resilience.
That makes the transition to our next location really interesting, because we go from the military resilience of a fortress to the places where daily life and actual governance happen.
Yes, the everyday pulse of the city.
Exactly. I'm looking at the itinerary stops for Zall and Murabba Palace.
Ah, those two locations represent the twin engines that build any civilization, commerce, and political power.
So let's start with commerce.
Yeah.
The sources describe Zall as Riyadh's oldest traditional market. And honestly, the picture painted here is a complete sensory immersion into local craftsmanship.
I can almost smell it from the description.
Right. You are weaving through tightly packed stalls. They're selling antiques, traditional clothes, everyday pots and pans, and then suddenly you'll see a vendor selling ancient armors, guns, and swords.
Just casually mixed in?
Yeah. The air is thick with the smell of burning incense, and you are literally stepping over these intricate, hand-woven carpets to get through the alleys. I mean, I'd probably be the one dragging my heels looking at the old swords.
Oh, you absolutely would be. But it is essential to understand how a traditional souk actually functions. It's not just an outdoor mall.
Okay, what is it then?
Historically, a souk was the central nervous system of a city. It was highly decentralized. You didn't just go there to buy incense or a carpet. You went there to hear news from caravans coming in from other regions.
Oh, so it was like the internet of the day.
Basically, you'd form alliances, arrange marriages, and figure out the political winds. And the layout, which feels totally chaotic to a modern visitor, was actually highly organized by trade.
Really? Like zones?
Yeah, the copper workers were in one section, the spice merchants in another. It represents the raw, grassroots economic power of the people.
That chaotic, vibrant energy is a massive contrast to the next stop on the itinerary, which is Al Murabba Palace.
The shift is jarring in the best way.
It really is. You take a short walk and suddenly you leave the dusty, loud market and step into these incredibly lush, manicured green gardens. This was the former royal complex of King Abdulaziz.
And it's a completely different architectural language.
Yeah, the sources note the architecture is a traditional Najdi style. The walls are ornamented with layered palm fronds. Inside, you see the mechanisms of structured power, reception salons, political offices, private quarters, and these breezy open courtyards.
The contrast is exactly the point. You are moving from the decentralized power of the people in the souk to the highly centralized, highly ordered power of the ruling class in the palace.
That makes so much sense.
And you can see that order reflected in the architecture itself. The Najdi style you mentioned is actually brilliant in its utility.
I was actually going to ask about that. I mean, anticipating what our listeners might be thinking, why layer palm fronds on the walls and roofs of a palace? Like, isn't that a fire hazard or just not very sturdy?
It sounds counterintuitive, but it's an ancient form of air conditioning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, hot air rises, right? If you build a solid mud roof, the heat just gets trapped inside the rooms.
Oh, so it becomes like an oven.
Exactly. But if you construct the upper layers and roofing out of interwoven layered palm fronds, you create a permeable barrier. It provides deep shade from the punishing sun, but it allows the hot air radiating off the people and the ground to escape upward and vent right out of the building.
That is so smart.
Combined with those breezy courtyards which draw cooler air down, you create a constant passive circulation of air. It's highly structured and highly controlled, just like the political power it housed.
So within a single afternoon walking tour, you are essentially experiencing the entire historical hierarchy of the city. You see the military defense at the fortress, the grassroots economy at the souk, and the centralized leadership at the palace.
Yes, and once you have those foundational puzzle pieces, you can really start to understand the broader narrative the city wants to project to the rest of the world.
Which brings us to how Riyadh curates that narrative today. After walking these historical sites, the itineraries take you to the National Museum.
Right.
And the sources describe this as one of the finest museums in the Middle East. Visually, it's this striking modernist building set within these massive flower-wreathed gardens.
That's gorgeous.
It contains 8 distinct interactive galleries that cover a sweeping timeline. We're talking about everything from actual Neolithic rock art to incredibly intricate scaled replicas of the buildings of old Jeddah.
Curation is such a powerful tool. You know, a national museum is never just a collection of old things. It is a carefully authored story.
Right.
By taking a visitor from prehistoric rock art through the dawn of early human culture into the Islamic era and up to the unification of the modern state, the museum creates a feeling of inevitable progress.
And that idea of inevitable progress is physically hammered home by the very next stop on the itinerary. Like right as you leave the National Museum, your guide takes you to Al Fazaliyah.
The first of Riyadh's truly major skyscrapers.
Yes, standing exactly 266 meters high. It's a massive curved pyramid shape. And right at the apex of the pyramid is this giant glass ball known as the Globe Experience.
It looks like something out of sci-fi.
It really does. You take an elevator all the way up there for these spectacular panoramic sunset views over the entire sprawling metropolis. But I have to stop and ask a practical question here.
Okay, shoot.
Think about the psychology of the traveler. You spend your morning looking at 150-year-old mud brick walls and Neolithic rock art on the ground floor. A few hours later, you are shot up into a 266-meter futuristic glass ball hovering in the sky.
Right.
Does that give a visitor a massive case of temporal whiplash?
Temporal whiplash is a great way to put it. Yes, it absolutely does. It is profoundly disorienting.
It has to be.
But what you have to realize is that the whiplash isn't a flaw in the itinerary. The whiplash is the defining feature of modern Saudi Arabia.
Wait, really? You're saying they want you to feel disoriented?
I'm saying they want you to feel the speed of their progress in your own body. The transition from the National Museum to the top of Al Fazaliyah is a physical, architectural representation of the society itself.
Oh, I see.
In many Western countries, the transition from agricultural history to the Industrial Revolution to the digital age that took centuries, the architecture evolved slowly.
Right, it was gradual.
But in Saudi Arabia, they moved from mud brick forts and a desert-based economy to a hyper-modern, globally connected financial powerhouse in just a few generations.
That's incredibly fast.
So when you go from the mud bricks of Al Masmak to the glass ball of Al Fazaliyah in a single afternoon, you are experiencing the compressed velocity of their history.
Man, that completely changes how you look at the skyline. It's not just a collection of tall buildings, it's literally a monument to speed. Okay, so that is the grand overarching narrative of Riyadh. But we need to pivot and talk about the practical reality on the ground. Like, how does a traveler actually book and experience this? Because this is where our deep dive into the source data uncovered a genuinely baffling mystery.
Oh, yes. The logistics always reveal the true nature of a destination. What did the data show?
So we have 2 main packages detailed in our sources. First, we have the ExcursionPass tour, which is a premium option running about $400 per adult.
Okay.
Then we have the TripAdvisor option, which is operated by a company called Saudi Nomadic Tours. This one is priced at $165 per adult, capped at a maximum of 6 travelers.
That sounds like a very intimate small group dynamic.
It does. The itinerary lists comfortable air-conditioned transport, knowledgeable English-speaking guides, traditional Saudi coffee, and dates. And there's a meeting point at a place called Rabi's Cafe right near the Masmak Fort.
Sounds chill.
Totally. The listing itself is explicitly titled the Historic Attractions and Cultural Guided Sightseeing Tour. It sounds like a very refined, quiet, educational day of sipping coffee and looking at architecture, you know?
Right. So where's the mystery?
The mystery is in the reviews. I pulled up the 192 glowing 5-star reviews for Saudi Nomadic Tours.
Okay.
And the travelers are absolutely raving about their guides, specifically naming guys like Muhammad and Ahmed. But I'm reading through these paragraphs, and they aren't praising Ahmed's deep knowledge of Neolithic rock art or Muhammad's explanation of the Najdi architectural style.
They aren't?
No. They're praising them for something entirely different.
What are they talking about?
I'm seeing phrases like extreme dune bashing. People are talking about riding ATVs in the desert, dragging their kids on sleds behind 4x4 SUVs in the sand, riding camels, visiting something called the Gazelle Reserve, exploring bat caves, and watching the sunset at a massive cliff called the Edge of the World. All right, I'm looking at this data, and it's a complete mismatch. You book a quiet, cultural walking tour of museums and palaces, and the reviews are talking about screaming in the back of a Land Cruiser while careening down a sand dune. What is going on here?
Ah, I see what's happening. The key clue there is the edge of the world.
What is that?
So the edge of the world is the colloquial name for a section of the Tuwaik Escarpment.
Okay, an escarpment.
Yeah, an escarpment is essentially a massive, dramatic geological fault line. Imagine a sheer rock cliff that drops hundreds of feet straight down into an ancient ocean bed, stretching for over 1,000 kilometers through the Arabian desert.
That sounds intense.
It is a breathtaking, adrenaline-inducing landscape far outside the city limits.
Okay, sure, but how does an escarpment explain why people on a historical city tour are leaving reviews about ATVs and bat caves?
Because it tells us how tourism actually functions in Riyadh. It reveals consumer behavior. What we are seeing in this data is that operators like Saudi Nomadic Tours don't just offer one thing.
No.
While the city's history is incredibly rich, the massive, rugged desert landscape surrounding Riyadh is the undeniable co-star for any traveler. Those reviewers likely didn't just book the cultural tour, they're bundling their experiences.
Oh, I see. They do the city in the morning and the desert in the afternoon.
Exactly. Travelers are seeking a complete spectrum of experience. They want the deep intellectual immersion in the morning, understanding the mud brick forts, haggling in the Souk al-Zal, walking the quiet halls of the National Museum.
Right, the refined stuff.
Yeah, but then once they understand the history, they want the visceral, high-octane thrill of the environment that actually shaped that history. So they hire Mohammed or Ahmed to pick them up in a 4x4, take them out to the Tuwaik Escarpment, bash through some sand dunes, and watch the sunset over a massive cliff.
And then the reviews are just blending the entire day's experience into one rating.
Precisely. They had one amazing day with one great guide, so they write about the whole thing on whatever listing they click.
So the practical takeaway for anyone visiting is that you need to pack your quiet museum shoes, but you also absolutely need to pack your dune-bashing boots.
You can't really understand Riyadh by just doing one or the other.
No, you really can't. The city and the desert are inextricably linked.
Which perfectly brings us to our core takeaway for this deep dive. Riyadh is, fundamentally, a city built on extreme, beautiful contrasts.
It really is.
It is a place that demands you look very closely at its 150-year-old mud brick past to fully appreciate the speed and scale of its 266-meter glass and steel future.
Yeah, you have to feel the quiet cool of the layered palm frond roofs at Murabba Palace, and you have to feel the adrenaline of a 4x4 on the edge of the Tuwaik Escarpment.
Because you cannot fully comprehend the towering modern skyscraper if you do not understand the utilitarian clay fort that preceded it. They are part of the exact same story.
And why does this matter to you? You know, whether you are prepping for a major corporate negotiation in the Middle East, or you just have a deep personal love for understanding how global cultures evolve, knowing the mechanics behind places like Masmak and the Souk al-Zal gives you a drastically deeper read on the country.
Absolutely.
When you look at footage of Riyadh, you're no longer just staring at a generic modern skyline. You are seeing the deep historical foundation it was built upon. You know the roots.
And, examining the roots of another culture always prompts a fascinating question about our own.
How so?
Well, it makes you look at your own surroundings differently. If someone were to build a national museum 1,000 years from now to tell the story of your specific city, what would they choose to preserve?
Oh, that's a wild thought.
Right. Would they keep the old brick markets where people stood face to face and haggled for goods? Or would they save the modern glass skyscrapers where we sit isolated at computers? When the future looks back at us, what monuments of our time will be considered our vital historic roots?
That is a brilliant and slightly intimidating thing to think about the next time you take a walk through your own downtown. Pay attention to what is being preserved around you, and ask yourself why. Until then, keep questioning the contrast, keep exploring the roots of the places you go, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.